Greetings, comrades! My name is DimAurora, and welcome back to From the Depths in the Designer today. Now, I know I should be getting back to Season 3 very soon, but I honestly have very little will to do it after recent events, after trying to record it. Because let's just say that my designs aren't exactly standing up to the test of time, and they're not really the best. Then again, what do I expect when my best ship is a light cruiser? So here we are today with what should be some simple retrofits that people should understand and realize that they're not new ships. None of these are new. Actually, only one of these is new, but it's basically a retrofit of an old ship. So here we are. So let's start off with the small stuff. Here we have the Bat Mark 1. Now this thing has had shortened wings, and that's about it. It is still battery powered and jet powered, just as all of my drones will be. And honestly, this one is the weakest of them. Why? Because it has a jet engine. Now, all four of these basically are invisible to missiles, radar, all that kind of stuff. Except for things that have passive detection or retroflexion because, well, I don't think retroflexion, but things that have specific types can detect them. But this one has the worst because infrared will lock onto the jet engine and say, hey, screw you, and go up the butt and then detonate the ammunition, and it's a whole big fiasco. So that's why I developed the Bat Mark II. Now the Bat Mark II is basically a Bat Mark 1, but replace the jet engine with a 30 power, or spinning at rotation of 30 using 12 drive or motor drive, and it's rearward propulsion. It's an interesting concept. I could have done it in the front, but if I did it in the front, missiles would hit the propeller and go wacky. So we have a rear-mounted propeller. Now, the difference between the Bat Mark II and the Bat Mark III, which are right next to each other right now, is that the Bat Mark II has the same, well, guided missile, basically, of the Bat Mark I, whereas the Bat Mark II has an experimental guided bomb. Now, the guided bomb has a massive payload compared to the guided missile. It requires no fuel, and honestly, it's my favorite weapon that I've developed yet, except for some of the auto massive guns. So, moving on, here is the Nat Mark I, the little tiny sibling of the Bats, and honestly, this thing is adorably fun. Now, as you can tell, it looks awful. Yes, I'm aware. It is meant to look awful. Why? Because that screws with its aerodynamics. Well, what does that do to benefit it? It makes this thing fly worse than a flying squirrel. This thing is a pain in the ass to hit. Let's just say that. And, to throw insult to injury, it basically looks like it poops out a little 2-meter mine. This thing is adorably funny. I've tested it in combat a couple times. I fought against an expert design, I think it was the Pilferer, and the Pilferer could not shoot the damn thing down. Even with advanced cannons and all that, frickin' infrared missiles. No, infrared missiles cannot lock onto this thing, because for one, there's literally no engine, there's no heat source really on this thing, and two, this thing flies so randomly that, honestly, I would give credit to anything that could hit it, unless it's flying directly at things, because sometimes it tends to do this weird flight pattern where it comes right up close to things, and that's when they get a nice shot into it. Now, here's one of the biggest changes. Here's the Steadfast. Looks very different, doesn't it? Yeah. I sawed off the back, replaced it with a new hull, and I made the main gun into a 380mm. That's just to put it simply. There are a ton of changes to this thing. Its gun is it's a 2-shot version of basically the Invulnerables gun. It's also 30mm smaller, so it does give a little bit of difference. And honestly, I upped all the shields. The engine has a lot less wear on it now, so we don't chew through as much fuel. And in the back we have some extra battery power now. So that's all fun and nice. Now let's continue and move on. Here we have the retrofitted, well, Vanguard. Now, the only real difference with the Vanguard is that its turrets have been completely redesigned. They used to be one block wider, and they used to have a slope basically down to the hull. Now they are using an interesting, well, turret design that I found in another video. If you have watched that, it is the progression takes time video, I think, where I discovered a turret that had this frontal, well, plating to it, and I really liked the look of it. So I put it back on my ships. At least the Vanguard gets it. So that's one of the retrofits. The other one is that this turret has been redesigned. It is now an EMP weapon, and it's honestly only there to take out shields. So that's all fine and dandy. Let's move on. This might not even be recognizable what it is. This is the Farah. I used to have the guns split into two, except that kind of looked odd in my opinion, and I'd rather keep the guns split on bigger ships. So I have designated destroyers as light ships that have autocannons. So now, as the name suggests, these are 100mm autocannons of, well, pain and death. Now, one thing I forgot to put on, destroyers is torpedo systems. So I replaced the god-awful, whatever caliber it was, I think it was an 80 or a 60 mil on the back here. Yeah, that's gone. I've also taken off 2 of the anti-aircraft because I think they're next to useless. So, we now have a very nice torpedo system in here. Also, I looked over it, we now have missile countermeasures on this. Took me frickin' way too long to get there now, didn't it? So, there are some areas that look kind of weird. There are areas like this where the frickin' detectors are on different levels, and this is the weirdest one because I had to put them up here, otherwise it wouldn't fit there. So, the detection nodes are in very weird spots. Now here, we have the Aurelia. Not much is very new, except the guns are now redesigned internally. So, they take up a lot less space than before and are a lot more potent. Honestly, this is one of my favorite, well, rapid fire, low caliber weapons. So, the 80 mil 60 mil, that was right. The 60 mil of the Aurelia is still the rarest of my type. Now here we have basically a patrol boat type 1 that has been retrofitted and a bit redone. So now it has a light alloy hull. I wanted to call it an aluminum one if you didn't hear me. But it's a lot faster now. It has more durability. Basically that's the only benefit to this thing. I don't know if I'll be using it in campaign, but it's just a little addition. So that's all I really wanted to show off with the retrofits here. Let's actually go over to the Steadfast, which is the most retrofitted of all. Now it looks a lot more like the Impervious and Invulnerable, and I really like that look. Now they are true monitors with oversized guns that do not belong on such a small ship. Except the fact that the Impervious and Invulnerable are actually pretty big. Oops. But anyways guys, that is all the time I have for this little video. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Look forward to seeing some of these in Season 3 when I get back to it. But, as for now, DimAurora, signing off.